The glass vials clinked against each other as Liz threaded her way through the crowded market stalls, each one filled with swirling mist in different colors. Blues so deep they pulled at your gut. Reds that made your skin flush just looking at them. Pale yellows that somehow made you smile without meaning to. Emotions, bottled and priced. Liz kept her head low, hood pulled forward. Just another shadow in a city full of them. Her gaze darted between the merchants and their customers, watching the exchange of coin for feeling.
Fresh despair! Extracted at childbirth!
A merchant called out, holding up a vial of churning storm-gray vapor.
Potent enough to darken steel for a fortnight!
Liz's fingers twitched, not worth the risk. The merchant had 3 guards, all with eyes sharp as hawks. She continued deeper into the market, where the smells of hot metal and burnt herbs mingled with the sweat and smoke. The Soulfire Market had occupied the bones of what had once been a grand cathedral. Now, its vaulted ceilings collected the steam from forges and the smoke from emotion-extracting ritual fires. Stained glass windows, depicting not saints, but the first emotion smiths, cast colored light across the stone floor. That's when she spotted him. A silk merchant, no calluses on those hands, purchasing a vial that gleamed with an eerie blue glow.
Guaranteed pure,
the emotion vendor said, a thin woman with hollow cheeks and eyes like empty wells.
Widow's grief 3 days fresh, extracted during the funeral itself.
The merchant handed over a pouch heavy with coin. If it doesn't perform as promised,
it will.
The vendor's voice cracked like dry wood.
I extracted it myself. She loved him for 30 years.
Liz's breath caught. Grief that potent would fetch a small fortune from the right buyer, worth the risk. She began tracking the silk merchant as he tucked the vial carefully into a velvet-lined box, then to his inner pocket. She followed him through the crowded market, out into the twisting streets of Hollow Harbor. The merchant moved confidently, unaware of the shadow that mirrored his steps, closing the distance between them with each turn. When he paused at a street corner, waiting for a cart to pass, Liz made her move. A deliberate stumble, a mumbled apology, hands quick as minnows, and the box was hers, tucked into a sleeve before the merchant could even register the contact. She was 3 steps away when she heard,
"You! Stop right there!"
Liz ran. Her feet knew these streets better than her own face. Down an alley slick with things she didn't want to name, through a gap between buildings barely wide enough for her narrow shoulders, across a courtyard where laundry hung like ghosts. Behind her she heard shouting, the merchant's voice joined by others. City watch, maybe, or hired muscle. She'd lost track of how many crimes carried the penalty of hand removal in Hollow Harbor. Liz ducked under a low archway, splashed through gutter water, and misjudged her next turn. Her foot caught on an uneven cobblestone, sending her sprawling. She managed to tuck into the fall but heard a sharp crack and felt sudden wetness seeping through her shirt. The vial. With no time to assess the damage, she scrambled back on her feet and ran, feeling the liquid soaking into her clothes. She reached down with one hand, making sure her knife was secure at her hip. The last gift from her mother. Worthless, except for the memories it carried. Only when she reached the docks, slipping beneath the rotting boardwalk to the small alcove she called home, did she dare stop to examine what had happened.
"Shit!"
she breathed. The velvet box was crushed. The glass vial inside shattered. Worse, the blue mist had seeped not just into her clothes, but had somehow been absorbed by her rusted knife. The blade now gave off a faint azure glow, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Liz tried wiping it off, but the glow remained. She considered throwing it into the harbor, but she couldn't bring herself to part with her only inheritance. Instead, she wrapped it in a rag and tucked it under the loose board where she kept her meager treasures. She'd figure out what to do with the glowing knife tomorrow.
Liz! Liz, you in there?
The voice jerked her from uneasy sleep. Dawn light filtered through the cracks in the boardwalk above. Liz recognized Wren's voice, another street kid who occasionally shared food or warnings about guard patrols.
"What?"
she called back, crawling from her hiding place. Ren's face was streaked with dirt and tears.
It's Mira,
he said.
They took her.
Who took her? Lys asked, instantly alert.
The collectors.
Ren's voice dropped to a whisper.
3 of them with silver needles. They're gonna harvest her.
Ice ran down Lys's spine. Everyone knew about the collectors, with their blank porcelain masks and silver extraction needles. They worked for the emotion barons, seeking specific feelings to harvest. Most targeted the desperate or the criminal, people no one would miss. For them to take someone from the street kids' loose community was unusual. When? Lys asked.
Last night, after midnight.
Ren looked away.
I hid. I couldn't stop them.
Of course you couldn't, Lys said. Nobody stops the collectors. As she spoke, she noticed something strange. Her voice, still wrapped in the rag, but visible where the cloth had fallen away, was glowing brighter. The blue light pulsed more rapidly, as if responding to Ren's distress.
What's that?
Ren asked, his eyes widening. Nothing, Lys said quickly, grabbing the knife and shoving it into her belt. Just something I picked up.
You're lying,
Ren said.
Is it magic? Something that could help Mira?
No, Lys said firmly. And Mira's gone, Ren. You know that. Once the collectors take someone, they don't come back. She hesitated, seeing the hope die in Ren's eyes. Look, I'm sorry about your sister, but there's nothing we can do.
Right,
Ren said, his face hardening.
Stupid of me to think you care. Everyone knows Lys only looks out for Lys.
He turned to go, but Lys grabbed his arm. Wait, she said. I do care. I need to figure something out first. Meet me at Broken Bridge at sunset. Maybe I can help. After Ren left, Lys unwrapped her knife fully. The glow had dimmed again, but there was something different about the blade. It felt lighter somehow, the edge sharper despite the rust. She needed coin, and she knew just the person who would pay for strange magical items. No questions asked. Varric's pawn shop occupied the hollowed-out bottom floor of a leaning tenement. The front rooms displayed the usual assortment of desperation. Wedding rings, family heirlooms, tools of trade abandoned. The real business happened in the back room, where Varric dealt in goods with more complicated origins.
Lys,
he greeted her, not looking up from the ledger he was writing in.
Nothing new came off the ships this week.
I'm not buying, she said. I'm selling. That got his attention. Varric was a large man with small, shrewd eyes.
You? What have you got that's worth my time?
Lys drew her knife, keeping it half hidden in her palm, and placed it on the counter. Even in the dimly lit shop, the blue glow was visible. Varric frowned.
What's this? Some trinket with the cheap illumination charm.
It's soul steel, Lys lied, using a term she'd overheard in the market. Very rare.
Is it now?
Varric reached for the knife.
And how did a gutter rat like you come by?
The moment his fingers touched the blade, he gasped. The knife's glow brightened dramatically, its light reflecting in his suddenly wide eyes. His face contorted, lips trembling.
My daughter, he whispered. My Eleni.
Tears welled in his eyes and spilled down his cheeks.
They took her 5 years ago. The collectors. Said she had the purest joy they'd ever measured. I've been looking. Been trying to find where they keep them.
His voice broke completely, shoulders heaving with heavy sobs. Lys snatched the knife back, disturbed. Varric had a reputation for ruthlessness. She'd never imagined him capable of such raw emotion. What is this thing? She demanded. What did it do to you? Varric wiped his face with a handkerchief, visibly struggling to regain his composure.
You don't know what you have, do you?
His voice was hoarse.
That's a truth blade. It must be crude, accidental, but powerful. It forces emotional honesty.
I don't understand. Varric leaned forward.
Listen carefully, girl. That knife is worth more than this entire building. It reveals true feelings, cuts through lies, masks, pretense. The emotion barons would kill for it, or kill you to get it.
Lys's hand tightened around the hilt. How much will you give me for it?
Varric laughed bitterly. Nothing. I won't touch it again. But if you're smart, you'll run. Far from Hollow Harbor. That blade will bring nothing but trouble.
He paused.
Unless
what?
Unless you use it to find them. The processing centers, where they take people like Maya Laney. Like your friend's sister.
His eyes bored into hers.
Everyone in this city wears a mask, Lys. Everyone has secrets. With that knife, you could cut right through them.
Word traveled fast in Hollow Harbor's shadows. By nightfall, whispers of a truth-revealing blade had reached ears both friendly and hostile. Lys didn't go to meet Ren at Broken Bridge. She couldn't risk leading trouble to him, not when she'd seen how the knife affected Varric. Instead, she found a new hiding place, an abandoned smokehouse with a hidden cellar, and tried to understand her strange new weapon. The knife responded to emotions, that much was clear. It glowed brighter around strong feelings, especially hidden ones. When it touched skin, it somehow forced truth. Not just spoken truth, but emotional truth. She was still experimenting when she heard footsteps above. Lys froze, knife in hand. The blade's glow dimmed as she controlled her fear, forcing her breathing to remain slow and silent. Floorboards creaked. Someone was searching methodically, moving furniture, tapping walls.
I know you're here, girl, called a deep voice with a distinctive rumbling accent. I'm not here with the market or the city watch. I just want to talk about your knife.
Lys remained silent. The blue glow brightened slightly.
Fine,
the voice continued.
I'll talk. You listen. My name is Tormund Deepforge. I was a master smith of Clan Ironheart before they exiled me. I've spent 7 years studying human emotion, forging. What you have is unique, valuable, and I need to see it.
The cellar had a back exit, a narrow tunnel that led to the next building. Lys began inching toward it.
The collectors have your scent, Tormund said. They know someone who has a truth blade. By tomorrow, they'll know who. I can help you, but only if you trust me.
The floorboards directly above Lys's head creaked. She looked up to see the tip of a knife blade scoring through the wood, carving a perfect circle. With a sudden crack, the section fell away, and she found herself staring up at a broad, bearded face. Dark eyes widened.
Found you.
Lys lunged with her knife, aiming to slash rather than stab. The blade caught the dwarf across his forearm as he raised it defensively. The effect was immediate. The knife blazed with blue light, and Tormund's face twisted as words poured from him, unbidden.
I'm obsessed with emotional forging because I never belonged among my kind, he gasped. Too soft-hearted, they said. Too fascinated by feelings rather than formulas. They called me weak, branded me with the spiral of shame, cast me out.
He clapped his free hand over his mouth, but couldn't stop.
I've been alone for 7 years, and I couldn't bear it anymore. I needed to prove I was right.
Lys backed away, knife still extended.
Stay back!
Tormund was breathing hard, looking at his cut arm in bewilderment.
Remarkable, he whispered. Complete emotion and unveiling, with just a scratch. I said stay back, Lys repeated.
The dwarf nodded slowly.
I deserve that. But now you know I'm telling the truth. I'm an outcast, just like you.
He rolled up his sleeve, revealing a spiral burn scar circling his forearm.
This is what dwarves give to those who break tradition. I can never go home.
Lys lowered the knife slightly. What do you want from me?
Partnership,
Tormund said simply.
That knife is soul steel, but crude, unfinished. I studied the techniques. Together, we could perfect it.
And why would I want to do that? Tormund's eyes were steady.
Because right now, that blade reveals truth. With my help, it could cut through lies, through emotional manipulation. It could free people from emotional control.
Lys thought of Mira, of Varric's daughter. People taken by the collectors?
Perhaps.
Tormund nodded.
But we need to move. The barons have ears everywhere, and your blade's existence threatens their entire operation.
They left through the tunnel, emerging in an abandoned tannery. As they crossed the empty workspace, Tormund explained what he knew of dwarven and human metallurgy.
My people forge with discipline and emotional restraint, he said. We believe feelings contaminate the metal and create unpredictable results. Our forges are temples of concentration and order.
But human smiths use emotions? Lys asked.
Some do. Most human smiths try to copy dwarven techniques, but there's always been a tradition of emotion forging. Blood, tears, memories. All can be alloyed with metal under the right conditions.
He glanced at her knife.
Your blade absorbed distilled grief, yes. Pilfered from that merchant that was causing a ruckus near a square, I presume. And bound to your own knife, which already held meaning for you.
Lys nodded reluctantly.
A perfect accidental synthesis, Tormund said. The market carefully controls all stages of emotion forging. Extraction, distillation, and incorporation are all done by different craftsmen, none knowing the complete process. You bypass their monopoly.
They reached a small, cluttered workshop tucked between larger buildings. Tormund unlocked 3 separate locks and ushered her inside.
My humble abode, he said. Not as grand as a proper dwarven forge, but serves.
Tools hung on every wall, alongside diagrams of metalworking techniques. A forge dominated one corner, with a bellows connected to a complex system of pipes and valves. Books and scrolls were stacked haphazardly on every surface. Why are you helping me? Lys asked directly. Tormund busied himself lighting lamps.
'Cause what you've achieved by accident, I've been trying to achieve for years.
He turned to face her.
I believe emotion forging isn't inferior to dwarven techniques, just different, more adaptive, responsive, and your knife proves I was right.
He gestured toward the blade.
May I examine it? No touching. I've had enough forced confessions for one day.
Lys hesitated, then held it out for him to see. The blue glow had subsided into a gentle pulse. Tormund studied it, his eyes narrowing.
The rust is being transmuted, he observed. The grief essence is purifying the metal while binding to it, but it's incomplete.
He looked up at her.
It reveals emotion, forces truth, but it can do much more, so much more.
Like what?
Sever emotional bonds,
Tormund said quietly.
Including those created by the collectors and their masters.
Lys's hands tightened around the hilt. It could free the people they've taken?
Theoretically. But we need to...
Tormund cut off as a heavy knock sounded at the door.
City Watch, called a voice. Open up, in the name of the Harbor Council.
Tormund sprang into action, grabbing a tarnished helmet from a shelf and pressing it into Lys's hands.
Put this on, he whispered. Stay silent and follow my lead.
The helmet was too large, slipping down over Lys's eyes, but she adjusted it as best she could. Tormund opened the door to reveal 2 uniformed guards.
Master Deepforge?
One asked.
Aye,
Tormund answered gruffly. We've got reports of unlicensed emotion crafting in this district, the guard said. You're to come with us for questioning.
Ridiculous, Tormund scoffed. I'm a dwarf. No emotion work here.
The second guard peered past him, eyeing Lys.
Who's this?
My apprentice, Tormund said.
From the northern provinces. Doesn't speak the local tongue.
The guard's eyes narrowed. Remove your helmets when addressing a city official, boy. Lys kept her head down, clutching her knife beneath her cloak. The blue glow would give her away instantly. Tormund stepped between them.
The lad has facial burns from a forge accident. It's a sensitive matter.
The first guard frowned. We have orders to search all metalworking shops.
By whose authority? Tormund demanded. I pay my guild taxes. I have proper licensure.
By authority of the emotion barons, the guard said, his hand moving to his sword hilt. Now, step aside. The knife beneath Lys's cloak brightened, its blue glow visible even through the fabric. Both guards' eyes fixed on it. Seize them! The first guard shouted, drawing his sword. Tormund grabbed a hammer from his workbench and swung it in a wide arc, forcing the guards back.
Run!
He shouted to Lys.
Back door, I'll hold him.
Lys hesitated only a moment before dashing toward the rear of the workshop. Behind her, she heard the clash of metal, grunts of pain. At the back door, she paused, looking back to see Tormund grappling with one guard while the other circled behind him, sword raised. Without thinking, she threw her knife. It spun through the air, glowing like a blue comet, and struck the second guard in the shoulder. He screamed, not just in pain, but in sudden emotional release.
I hate my job,
he wailed.
I never wanted to be a guard. My father forced me into it. I'm miserable every day.
Tormund took advantage of the distraction to knock out the first guard with a solid blow from his hammer. He turned to the second, who was still sobbing uncontrollably, and delivered another hammer strike that sent him crumpling to the floor.
Well,
the dwarf said, breathing heavily.
That was effective.
He retrieved Lys's knife, careful to touch only the hilt, and returned it to her.
But now we have even less time. The market will have every guard in the city looking for us.
What do we do? Lys asked. Tormund's eyes gleamed.
We go to the source, the soul-fire market itself. If we're to understand what your knife can truly do, we need to see how emotions are harvested and processed.
They approached the market as night fell, disguised as buyers rather than fugitives. Tormund wore a hood that concealed his beard and distinctive dwarven features, while Lys had altered her appearance with soot smudges and a boy's cap. Her knife, wrapped carefully in layers of cloth to mask its glow, was hidden in a carpenter's tool bag Tormund carried. The evening market was more crowded than daytime, the air thick with forge smoke and exotic incense used in emotion-extracting rituals. Vendors called out their wares, emphasizing rarity and potency.
Northern Berserker Rage, guaranteed authentic. Lover's first disappointment, perfect for tempering blades.
New mother's joy, makes gold shine like a second sun.
Tormund led Lys deeper into the market, past the public stalls towards section areas where higher quality emotions were traded. Here, the transactions were quieter, the clients wealthier. Guards stood at each entrance, checking credentials.
I can't get us past them,
Lys whispered.
We don't need to, Tormund replied. Look there.
He nodded toward a small door, half hidden behind hanging tapestries. A constant stream of workers moved through it, some carrying empty vials, others pushing carts laden with sealed containers.
The processing area, Tormund said, where emotions are distilled and prepared for sale.
They waited for a gap in the traffic, then slipped through the door. Beyond was a narrow passage that sloped downward, leading beneath the main market floor. The walls were rough stone, the air noticeably colder. The passage opened into a vast underground chamber, once a crypt perhaps, or an ancient treasury. Now it bustled with activity. Long tables were staffed by workers in leather aprons, their hands protected by thick gloves as they manipulated vials of swirling emotional essences. In one corner, a massive alembic bubbled with golden fluid, watched carefully by a man in more elaborate robes.
Distillation,
Tormund whispered.
raw emotional extract is refined, concentrated, stabilized.
Where do the raw emotions come from? Lys asked, though she dreaded the answer. Tormund pointed to another doorway across the chamber.
Let's find out.
They skirted the edges of the room, trying to look like they belonged. Most workers were too focused on their delicate task to pay them any mind. When a supervisor looked their way, Tormund pretended to examine a rack of cooling vials with professional interest. The second doorway led to a corridor lined with small rooms, cells really, with barred doors. Inside each was a single occupant, sitting motionless on a simple cot. Some stared blankly at nothing. Others rocked gently back and forth. None showed any reaction as Lys and Tormund passed.
The depleted,
Tormund muttered.
those have had too much taken from them.
Lys's grip tightened on her concealed knife.
They're still alive.
In body only,
Tormund said grimly.
They lost essential parts of themselves.
They continued down the corridor until they reached a larger chamber. Here the air hummed with a strange energy that made Lys's skin prickle. 3 figures in black robes and blank porcelain masks, collectors, stood around a central chair, where a young woman was strapped down.
Mira!
Lys breathed. Tormund gripped her arm in warning, pulling her back into the shadows of the corridor. One collector held a silver needle, connected to a thin glass tube. Another prepared Mira's arm, swabbing it with a strong-smelling liquid. The third consulted a ledger.
Subject exhibits unusually strong familial bonds,
the third collector said, voice muffled by the mask.
Extraction priority is sibling affection, secondary compassion, territory protective instinct.
Quantification? Asked the collector with the needle.
Level 7 potency, estimated yields, 3 standard vials.
The needle wielder nodded. Proceeding with primary extraction. The silver needle pierced Mira's skin. She gasped, her back arching. A faint orange glow traveled from her arm through the needle, into the attached vial. Her face, which had been tight with fear, gradually slackened, eyes growing distant.
No,
Lys whispered.
They're taking her feelings for Ren.
Tormund tightened his grip on her arm.
We can't stop them. Not yet. Not alone.
Look there, this third collector said suddenly, pointing toward a shelf of filled vials.
The new rage extract is destabilizing.
All 3 collectors moved toward the shelf, examining a vial filled with roiling crimson mist. Lys saw her chance. While they were distracted, she darted into the room, snatched a filled vial labeled Sibling Devotion, and retreated to the corridor.
Are you mad?
Tormund hissed. We have to go, Lys said, slipping the vial into her pocket. Now! They retraced their steps, moving as quickly as they dared without drawing attention. Only when they reached the upper level of the market did Tormund speak again.
What were you thinking? That was...
Her love for her brother, Lys said fiercely. They were stealing Mira's love for Ren. I couldn't let them keep it. Tormund's anger faded.
I understand. But it was still dangerous.
He glanced around nervously.
We should separate. Meet me back at my workshop in an hour. There's a route through the back that bypasses the main door.
Lys nodded, clutching the stolen vial. Already she was forming a plan. One she wasn't sure she'd share with Tormund. Instead of heading for Tormund's workshop, Lys made her way to Broken Bridge, where she'd promised to meet Ren. The ancient stone span, half collapsed into the harbor generations ago, was a common meeting place for the city's urchins and outcasts. Ren was there, sitting on a fallen pillar, skipping stones into the dark water below. He looked up as she approached, his face guarded.
You didn't come earlier,
he said flatly. I was busy finding your sister, Lys replied, watching his expression shift from resignation to disbelief.
What?
Where is she? Still in the market. I couldn't free her yet. Liz sat beside him, drew out the vial of orange mist. But I saved this. Ren stared at the vial. What is it? Her love for you, Liz said softly. They extracted it, but I stole it back. Ren reached for the vial, but Liz held it away. Wait, I need your help first, and then I'll give it to you. She swallowed. I need to find someone who knows about soul steal and emotion forging. Someone who isn't a dwarf. Ren's brow furrowed. Why? Because I have a way to fight the collectors, but I need to understand it better. She showed him her knife, letting the blue glow shine freely for the first time since they'd fled Tormund's workshop. Ren's eyes widened. That's not normal. It's a truth blade, formed when distilled grief spilled on my mother's knife. I don't know how it all works, but it's special. Liz turned it, watching the blue light dance over the dark water. It reveals emotions, forces people to speak their genuine feelings, but I think it can do more. I think it can cut through emotional bonds, maybe even free people the collectors have taken. Ren was silent for a long moment. There's an old woman in the Ash district who used to make weapons. Sylvia. People say she could forge blades that made men brave or cowards, depending on who wielded them. But she stopped years ago. Take me to her, Liz said, standing. Then I'll give you your sister's love. Ren led her through increasingly narrow streets, where buildings leaned together so closely that the way forward was often in near darkness. The Ash district had been partially destroyed in a fire decades ago, and never properly rebuilt. Now, it was a maze of half-repaired structures and improvised dwellings. They stopped before a small house wedged between two larger buildings. Despite the dilapidation of its neighbors, this building was well-maintained, its door freshly painted a deep blue. This is it, Ren said. I'll wait out here. Liz approached the door and knocked. For a long moment, there was no response. Then a panel slid open at eye level, and a pair of oddly shifting eyes examined her. What do you want? Asked a raspy voice. I need help with soul steal, Liz said directly. The panel slid shut. Locks clicked. The door opened to reveal a hunched elderly woman with white hair and in hands mapped with scars. Her eyes, Liz realized, seemed to change color subtly as she studied her visitor. Show me, the woman, Sylvia, said. Liz drew her knife. The blue glow illuminated Sylvia's weathered face, highlighting deep lines of sorrow and regret. Inside, Sylvia ordered, stepping back. Quickly! The interior of the house was a single room, meticulously organized. One wall held a forge, currently cold. Another was lined with books. The center was dominated by a large work table, covered with metallurgical goods. Sylvia took the knife from Liz, holding it by the blade, apparently immune to its truth-compelling properties. Accident? She asked. Liz nodded. Grief essence spilled on it. Your knife originally? My mother's. Sylvia nodded. Emotional connection already present in the metal. Good foundation. She ran a scarred finger along the edge. Incomplete, though. It reveals but cannot transform. Transform? How? Liz asked. Emotional alchemy, Sylvia said, setting the knife on her work table. True soul steel doesn't just reveal emotions or force them out. It can transfer them, redirect them, even sever them. Could it free someone who's had emotions extracted by collectors? Sylvia's shifting eyes fixed on Liz. You've seen their work. It wasn't a question, but Liz nodded anyway. They take. I used to give. Sylvia gestured to her forge. My blades carried freely given emotions. Courage to the fearful, calm to the wrathful, until I realized how many deaths they caused. Her voice grew distant. A blade of unfailing courage makes a man charge when he should retreat. A sword of serene calm keeps a woman from feeling the fear that might save her life.
She shook herself.
Why do you want to complete this blade?
To save people from the emotion barons, Lys said. To free those who've been taken. Sylvia studied her, eyes shifting from blue to green to amber.
You have a stolen vial in your pocket.
Lys hesitated, then drew out Mira's extracted love. It belongs to a friend's sister. I'm going to return it.
How?
Sylvia asked.
Have you any idea how to reintegrate extracted emotion?
No, Lys admitted. But you do. A bitter smile crossed Sylvia's face.
I stopped this work for a reason, girl.
And the emotion barons continued theirs, Lys countered. They're stripping people of their humanity. My friend's sister is just one of dozens I saw tonight. They're kept like empty husks. Is that what you want your legacy to be? That you walked away and let this happen? Sylvia's eyes flashed red, then faded to a deep purple.
Bold words from a thief.
Yes, I'm a thief, Lys agreed. I take things to survive. They take souls for profit. Which is worse? For a long moment, the old woman was silent. Then she sighed.
To complete your blade would require a balanced emotion freely given. The grief was accidental, stolen. It needs a counterweight. Joy, love, hope. Something deliberately alloyed with the metal.
How is that done? Sylvia moved to her forge, began building a small fire.
Blood, memory, intent. All must enter the metal together.
As the forge heated, she gathered tools and materials. A small hammer, tongs, various powders and clay pots.
The knife must be reforged. Not completely, but enough to integrate the new element.
I have the sibling love, Lys said, holding up the vial. Sylvia shook her head.
Still stolen. The blade would be unbalanced, chaotic. No, it must come from you. Something personal. Willingly sacrificed.
The blue glow of the knife pulsed faster, as if responding to Lys's rising anxiety. What did she have to give? What joy or love had she ever experienced that would balance grief? Then she remembered her mother's face. Not clear, she'd been too young when she died, but a feeling of warmth, of safety. The knife had been her mother's. Perhaps that connection was enough. Can I use a memory of my mother? She asked softly. Sylvia nodded.
If it's strong enough. If you're willing to give part of it to the blade forever.
Lys thought of the memory. Precious, fading, one of her few treasures. I'm willing.
Then we begin.
Sylvia's eyes shifted to a deep gold as she worked in the bellows, bringing the forge to white-hot heat. The reforging took hours. Lys's contribution required more than memory. It required blood, freely given, and focused concentration on the feelings she wished to impart. As Sylvia worked the metal with her scarred hands, Lys poured her memories and meaning into the blade. Dawn was breaking when Sylvia plunged the knife into a basin of clear liquid that steamed and hissed on contact. When she withdrew it, the blade was transformed. The rust had vanished. The metal now bore subtle rippling patterns like flowing water. And the glow, it had changed from melancholy blue to a clear, piercing white light.
It's done,
Sylvia said, her voice weary.
The grief and love are balanced. This is true soul steel now.
Lys took the knife reverently. It felt different in her hand. Lighter, yet somehow more substantial. What can it do?
It can still reveal truth,
Sylvia explained.
But now it can also cut through emotional bonds, both natural and unnatural. It can sever the connection between extracted emotions and their source. It might even restore emotions to those from whom they were taken.
Like Mira, Lys said.
Perhaps.
Sylvia tapped the vial of orange mist.
If you can return this to her, the blade might heal the extraction wound. Allow her to feel that love again.
And the emotion barons? Sylvia's eyes darkened to indigo.
They're addicts. They consume others' emotions because they burned out their own capacity to feel. Your blade could sever their connection to stolen emotions, but the withdrawal might kill them.
Liz thought of the hollow-eyed people in the market cells, of Mira's vacant expression as her love for her brother was drained away. That's a risk I'm willing to take. She left Sylvia's house with the completed blade and the vial of Mira's love, finding Ren asleep on the doorstep outside. As she shook him awake, she heard bells ringing across the city, the alarm for major disturbances.
What's happening?
Ren asked groggily. I don't know, Liz said, but I need to find Tormund. They hurried through the awakening streets where people gathered in confused clusters, pointing toward the market district. Smoke rose in a thick column from the cathedral dome.
The Soulfire Market!
Ren gasped.
It's burning!
When they reached the edge of the market district, they found chaos. City guards were trying to control panicked crowds. Vendors fled with their wares. And from inside the market itself came sounds of fighting. Liz grabbed a fleeing merchant. What's happening?
The dwarven smith, the man panted. He broke into the repository, set fire to the central vault. The emotion barons have called for his head.
Tormund. He must have gone looking for her when she didn't return. Liz pushed through the crowd, ran at her heels, making for Tormund's workshop. It was empty. The door broken open, signs of struggle evident. They've taken him, Liz said, to the market. Ren caught her arm.
You can't go back there. The whole place is in chaos.
She shook him off. I have to. He risked everything to help me understand this. She held up the glowing blade. Now, I have to help him.
Then I'm coming too,
Ren said firmly.
For Mira.
They approached the market from the back, using the service entrances Liz had noted during their earlier exploration. The building was in turmoil, guards running in all directions, merchants trying to salvage valuable inventory, thick smoke making visibility poor. Using the confusion as cover, they made their way to the underground levels. Here, the chaos was even more pronounced. Several cells stood open, former captives wandering in confusion or sitting numbly where they'd been left. The distillation chamber was abandoned, vials left unattended on workbenches. The extraction room, Liz said. That's where they'd take Tormund for questioning. They found it easily enough, following the sounds of angry voices. Peering through the doorway, Liz saw Tormund bound to the extraction chair. Around him stood 5 richly dressed figures, the emotion barons themselves. Their faces were unnaturally smooth, their expressions too precise, too controlled.
Where is the girl? One was demanding. Where is the blade?
Tormund spat blood.
Gone. Far from your reach by now.
A baron with silver-streaked hair held up a vial of swirling black essence.
Fear extract. Concentrated. I wonder how much a dwarf can endure before his heart fails.
He turned to a masked collector.
Proceed with the injection.
Wait! Liz called, stepping into the doorway. I'm here, and I have what you want. All eyes turned to her. Ren hissed in dismay, but stayed at her side. The silver-haired baron smiled thinly.
The thief herself. How convenient.
Let the dwarf go, Liz said, raising her blade. Its white glow illuminated the chamber, causing the barons to flinch slightly. This is between us now. One baron, a young woman with unnaturally perfect features, laughed. You think that crude weapon frightens us? We control every emotion in this city. Fear, love, rage, all flow through our hands. And none through your hearts, Liz countered. I've seen what you really are. Empty vessels, filling yourselves with stolen feelings because you burned out your own. The silver-haired baron's smile vanished. Enough. Guards, seize her. Carefully. The blade is valuable. The guards moved forward, but Lys was faster. She leapt onto a workbench, grabbing a rack of emotion vials. Stay back, or I destroy your entire stock! The barons froze, their perfect composure slipping. You wouldn't dare, the woman hissed. Do you know how much those are worth? I know exactly what they're worth, Lys said. To their original owners. She gestured with her knife toward the vials. Love, joy, courage, all stolen, all missed. Necessary sacrifices, the silver-haired baron said dismissively. The emotions serve greater purpose in our hands than in the lives of common rabble. Ren had been inching around the edge of the room during this exchange. Now, he reached Tormund and began quietly working to free his bonds. What purpose? Lys demanded, keeping the baron's attention. Your own pleasure? Your addiction? Power, the woman said simply. Emotional essence is the purest form of power. With it, we craft the finest weapons, the most potent charms. We control who feels what, when, and how intensely. While you feel nothing yourselves, Lys said. A flicker of genuine emotion, anger, crossed the silver-haired baron's face. We sacrificed our natural emotions for transcendence. We exist above the messy, unpredictable realm of feelings that enslave lesser beings. You're not above anything, Lys said. You're addicts. That's all. Emotional vampires. With a roar, Tormund broke free of his bonds, sending the guard beside him sprawling. Ren dashed to a side door, throwing it open to reveal a room where a dozen depleted captives sat in vacant silence. Among them was Mira. Now, Lys! Ren shouted, running to his sister's side. Lys swept her blade through the rack of vials, shattering them. Multicolored mist exploded outward. Swirling clouds of red, gold, violet, green, blue, and orange. The barons screamed, reaching desperately toward the dissipating emotions. The silver-haired baron lunged for Lys, but she met him with her blade. The knife sliced across his outstretched hand, and the effect was immediate. He convulsed, his two perfect features contorting as the soul steel severed his connection to the stolen emotions he'd consumed. My feelings, he gasped. I can't feel anything. The other barons backed away in horror as their leader collapsed, his face suddenly aged, skin sagging, as if decades of preservation had been undone in seconds. Lys turned to the remaining barons. This ends now. Your repository is burning. Your extracted emotions are returning to their sources. Your monopoly is over. Their masks of composure shattered completely. Some fled. Others collapsed in withdrawal, bodies unable to function without the stolen emotions they'd depended upon. The collectors hesitated, then discarded their silver needles and slipped away. Lys ran to the side room where Ren knelt beside his sister. Mira's face was blank, her eyes vacant. The vial, Lys said, drawing out the orange mist. Her love for you. Ren took it with trembling hands. How do we... I don't know exactly, Lys admitted. But I think... She held out her knife, now glowing with clear white light. Touch the vial to the blade. Ren pressed the glass against the glowing metal. The vial warmed, then began to crack. Orange mist seeped out, but instead of dissipating, it coalesced around the blade. The white glow absorbed the orange, momentarily flashing gold before returning to its clear radiance. Now, touch it to her heart, Lys instructed. Gently, Ren guided Lys's hand until the flat of the blade rested against Mira's chest. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then, Mira gasped, her eyes widening, focusing. Color returned to her cheeks.
Ren?
She whispered, reaching for her brother.
What happened? Where?
Ren gathered her into his arms, tears streaming down his face. "You're back!" he said. "You're really back!" Around them, other depleted captives were stirring. As the extracted emotions released from the broken vials found their original sources, awareness returned to vacant eyes, movement to still limbs. Tormund limped over, his face bruised, but his eyes bright with wonder.
It worked,
he said. Your blade severed the artificial ones and restored the natural ones.
Lys nodded, looking at the weapon in her hands. Its glow was fading now, settling into a subtle shimmer along the rippling patterns in the metal. What happens now to all these people?
They recover, Tormund said. They heal, and we ensure this never happens again.
How? Lys asked. The dwarf glanced around at the ruin extraction chamber.
We share knowledge. The dwarves kept their techniques secret. Humans with emotion forging skills do the same. That's how the barons gain control, through monopolizing fragments of understanding.
He held out his hand.
Your blade proves what I've always believed, that the finest creations come from combining traditions, not hoarding them.
Lys looked at the knife that had gone from rusted memento to powerful soul steel. What will you do?
Return to my people, Tormund said. Show them what we've learned. The spiral brand on my arm can never be removed, but perhaps its meaning can change. From mark of shame to symbol of bridge building. And what about us?
Ren asked, still holding his sister close. Lys thought of the city above, the burning market, the power vacuum left by the Baron's fall. We rebuild, she said simply. But differently this time. No monopolies. No extraction. She slipped her knife back into its sheath, feeling its weight against her hip, heavier with responsibility now, but somehow right. The emotions bound within it, grief accidentally acquired, love freely given, balanced each other, creating something neither tradition alone could have forged. As she helped Mira to her feet, Lys felt something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. Not stolen, not extracted, but growing naturally. Hope.